JamesAllen.com is the online destination to easily design a customized engagement ring and save up to 50% compared to traditional stores. You pick a diamond, whether it's lab-created or earth-created, James Allen has over 200,000 conflict-free stones. Then you pick your ring setting and metal. And if you need some help, they have real-time diamond consultations available, where an expert can walk you through it all. Get 25% off your order at JamesAllen.com, code podcast. That's JamesAllen.com, code podcast.
You've discovered your link to GoPowerCat.com's PowerCat podcast. Now, here's your host, GoPowerCat.com publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to the Insiders, the PowerCat Insiders podcast, sponsored by Blue Mark Energy, Tim Fitzgerald, and Matt Walters. That's it. That's your entire lineup today. We're not being hit by COVID. We're being hit by other meetings, I think. It's unfortunate. I know it makes many of you disappointed not to have Ryan Black and Travis Tannehill, but you get the old farts today, and we're going to share our knowledge, like why you should join up with Blue Mark Energy. Does your company or your employer spend $4,000 or more a year on energy bills? Would you like to reduce those costs by 25% or more and maintain the same level of service and reliability? If so, it's time to speak with Blue Mark Energy. Blue Mark Energy, K-State owned and K-State proud. Matt Walters, just like old times, you and I, buddy.
Good day.
Yeah. How was your off week? Did you spend it doing off week stuff, or just? I see you haven't been shaving. That's good.
It's approaching wintertime and it's November, so I'm giving that a whirl. But
nice.
I got a little bit of golf on Sunday. It was nice. I hadn't done that in a month and a half or thereabouts. So
it's good.
Nice. I like the chill in the air. It's a little breezy, which that's okay. But yeah, good way to finish off the off week. And now here we go.
Here we go. That's exactly right. 3 games to go in 3 weeks. Question one is obvious this. Will K-State get that game in? Chris Klieman just talked about on the Big 12 teleconference. They are flirting with a couple position groups not having enough players to play. Man, Matt, to get this far into the season and lose a game would suck, but that is 2020, isn't it?
Yeah, I would hate to see that happen. You keep your fingers crossed. It was a wild past weekend with, all sorts of games in the SEC getting postponed. The Pac-12 likewise, and then in the Pac-12 they get the Cal UCLA game rescheduled at the snap of a finger, and they play early on Sunday. So who knows? It's the vibe, and when I say the vibe, I don't mean just K-State. I'm just talking countrywide. As the vibe is the numbers aren't going the right way, and we've not seen the end of this. There's going to be a lot of 11th hour decisions to either play a game or to unfortunately have to call a game due to COVID.
Yeah, it sucks. It really does, and the numbers are skyrocketing, and it really seems to be tied mostly to the Halloween weekend and things that went on around the country. But also a lot of small towns are having it strike right now. It's just really unfortunate. We've gotten this far into the season. It bodes well for the Big 12, though, that they've kind of been through this. Chris Klieman mentioned that about half of its players have had COVID now, so you would think they're going to be okay through football season, but his concern was the other half hasn't had them, and what if it strikes that half? No controlling that, though, Matt. Let's talk football. Iowa State's pretty good. I'm not completely sold on them, but I am sold on Breece Hall. That kid is really special, and boy, K-State missed out on that one. When you lose a kid in your backyard to a team in your own conference, it stings. It hurts double because you got to play him, and you also got to play him knowing that the previous staff wasn't able to get him wrapped up in the recruiting process.
Yeah, and the new staff really didn't have a chance to try and land Breece Hall. So, I tell you, that kid has skyrocketed, into stardom early on in his career at Iowa State. He's gained some weight. He is strong. I like how he runs the football. And, Iowa State's always a different beast at home. They've got they've got playmakers in a lot of spots. You talk about Kolar at tight end as well. They've got some guys on defense. I think Matt Campbell's done a good job in upping the recruiting, talent, which is what, Kansas State has done and will have to continue to do. But it's going to be a handful. Iowa State is locked and loaded. They're smelling a chance to play in the conference championship game as well. So, throw that into the mix. There could be some rain in the forecast, it sounds like, on Saturday. So it could be a lot of different elements that figure into this ball game. And you look at the all-time series, Fitzy, there's just one win difference between Iowa State and K-State. The Cyclones have the advantage. So this is always, to me, a fun game, and it's a fun series.
Is it a rivalry, Matt Walters? Or is Farmageddon all orchestrated?
Yeah, I'm going to say Farmageddon on the back burner, but I think there's a little something to this rivalry. I don't, by the letter of the law, no, it's probably not a rivalry. I mean, K-State's won 11 of the last 12. So again, by the proper definition, it's not a rivalry, but I think there's a little something to this just because of the proximity. Again, the type of schools that both Iowa State and K-State are, and I think it's become a little more of a game that you can talk in that vein, just because of what Matt Campbell has done. They're again not blowing doors off, but they're beating people. They've beaten Oklahoma, and they're beating some of the upper echelon teams in the conference. So yeah, it's I don't think it's going to lessen. Let's just say that. I think if anything, it's going to continue to grow into more of a rivalry type contest over the years.
I almost feel like the tension's grown in this series because the games are close, but also because Nebraska left and kind of left a vacuum in between the two schools. They both had Nebraska to kind of focus on, and now they focus on each other, mostly because Matt Campbell has got the Cyclones playing pretty good football. Give me your thoughts on Matt Campbell as a college football coach.
I think he's above average. I think the book is still out on him. How long does he stay at Iowa State? To what level does he get that program? The energy and the enthusiasm from the fan base is there. Their facilities continue to be upgraded, which you can say that about a lot of places, but I think it's because of the enthusiasm that's been injected back into Iowa State football, and Matt Campbell's got a lot to do with that. His coaching staff has a lot of energy. I think there's something to be said for that. He's not, in my opinion, he's not ready for that, that next huge jump that I think some people believe he's ready for. He may get there, but he's done a nice job so far, I think, with Iowa State's program, and I don't know that can really be argued. He's made Iowa State into somebody you got to pay closer attention to. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. I'm curious, though, to see how this plays out for Matt Campbell. If he just stays there in Ames, where 6, 7, and 8 wins are considered, great seasons. 8 wins is just like a Heisman Trophy to Iowa State fans because they haven't had a large amount of success in recent history. Or he moves on to a school where, frankly, 8 wins would be disappointing. It certainly is something to see. I think he's a good coach. I like him a lot, but I don't think he's as good as some people perceive him to be. Just the fact that he's never quite gotten over the hump. And maybe this is it. Maybe this is the season they get over the hump, Matt. They're in control of the Big 12 right now. If they want to be there, they can beat K-State and win a couple more games and get to the championship game, which would be a significant step for the program. It really would be cool for Iowa State to be able to do that. But K-State's a thorn in their side. I mean, Chris Klieman won the first meeting between the two last year. I think Matt Campbell has the better team. I think he'll have the healthier team, at least from the outside looking in. And still, I think K-State might win. Just you know how rivalries work that way. Sometimes matchups just the one team seems to win more than the other team for reasons you can't fully explain, and that certainly is what's happened in this series as of late.
Well, and to back up for just a moment, Fitz, I think you can put Chris Kleiman and Matt Campbell into the same category in that both guys are still pretty young with their programs. Obviously, Coach Kleiman in his second year at K-State. And I don't think anybody expected Matt Campbell to turn Iowa State into, a consistent top 2, top 3 team in the Big 12 just in a handful of, 2 or 3 or 4 years. He has bumped them up in the conference, and I think that's why, you have to take note. It's not like, he has stepped in at Texas or he stepped in at Oklahoma and done what he's done. It's a little more difficult in Ames, Iowa, just like it's a little more difficult. Some people think here in Manhattan, and I think you give these guys 4 or 5 or, again, maybe a few years more than that to really see what there is. It takes time to get virtually everything in place that you want to as a head coach. It's the environment, I think, up in Ames has gotten a lot better. It's I don't know if I'd call it intimidating, but the people up there care a lot more. It's not just, Iowa football. Iowa State's a factor. And, like K-State, they've gone all over the place to get recruits. So I think Iowa State's a team that you keep your eye on. They're kind of in that next layer in the Big 12. And I think they're making the conference better right now. But what you have to do is you have to win games on the road and hold serve at home. And what's really interesting is that West Virginia is the only team that has not lost a home game this year in conference play. They're the only unbeaten at home. But it's interesting to me how Iowa State has been able to go get some of the guys that they've landed in that program and then making that consistent. And that's what Coach Kleiman and his staff are trying to do here at K-State.
No, you're exactly right. They keep sneaking into this area and stealing kids. And, that says a lot about their aggressive nature in recruiting. And it's a credit to them.
Well, and Fitzy, they've also snagged guys out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to go get guys out of Texas, but, the Kolar kid they took out from underneath OU's nose. I don't know if Oklahoma was quite as interested in him, but K-State does the same thing at times, and that's what you have to do, and that's what people have to remember is Texas and Oklahoma can't take everybody, and not everybody wants to go there. So kids that get opportunities in places like K-State and Iowa State, I tell them jump at them, get after them, because you're going to have a great chance to play and do things in a big-time conference.
Okay, Matt, as they come out of this off week and head into the final 3 weeks, what are your biggest concerns with this Kansas State football team?
Well, you start with health, which has now creeped back into the mix. A couple of weeks ago, I don't think that was really a factor. Will Howard, when I say Will Howard, I'm not thinking concern at the moment, but does he continue to grow? Does he plateau now, or does he, pick things back up? What were the 2 weeks this past week, this coming week? What were they like for him in terms of what has he learned? There are some of those little mistakes that he's made that you'd like to see get cleaned up. I hope he doesn't feel like he has to force the issue with certain throws, and we've seen that. Obviously, the Oklahoma State game, still comes to mind. But what has he done to grow and help this football team? To me, Fitz, I hate to sound like a broken record, but my goodness, the wide receivers have to help out. They have to do something to help this football team out, because they're not – right now I don't think they're making their quarterback better. And if Briley Moore is not able to – for some reason he's not able to play again this Saturday, K-State's probably going to have to use some smoke and mirrors like they did successfully against Oklahoma State. But it'll be tough sledding if that's the case.
Are fans being unfair with Will Howard right now? I mean, there's a lot of criticism of him on social media, which is the main function of social media nowadays. But the kid's a true freshman in a position none of us expected, with receivers that aren't functioning, with injuries around, a new offensive line. I'm actually impressed he hasn't been worse. Let's put it that way. I just think mistakes are going to happen.
Yeah, overall, I mean, there's that little substation in social media that's being critical, but, considering where he is, he didn't have spring football, what he's done, I think the vast majority, are right behind Will Howard. His teammates are. I like the leadership that's being shown by the guys around Will Howard, his teammates, and I'd say 95% are, fully entrenched in Will Howard, and they should be. It will be fun down the road to see how the quarterback competition at K-State plays out, not just next year and if Skylar Thompson comes back, but for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting once they get all these recruits, and they'll continue to recruit that position. That's a position I think the staff wants to take one guy a year, because you just have attrition and you can't be shorthanded. I can't figure out the receivers, Matt. I don't know what has gone wrong with these receivers. I know they've had an injury in Wyking Gill and a departure in Joshua Youngblood, but Malik Knowles has played, even for a guy that's been banged up and fighting injuries, you can see his confidence is wavering. He just doesn't have the same swagger, if you want to put it that way, that he's had in the past. I thought Sebastian Taylor was ready to step up, and now he's kind of got the dropsies a little bit. Phillip Brooks has been pretty good, but I think Phillip Brooks as a receiver is just a guy that's going to play a role. So you begin to wonder where they're going to get the plays from. I mean, can a Keenan Garber step up and be a guy? Can he start picking things up? Do they need to try to put some different guys at receiver and just see what happens, or is this what it is for the 2020 season?
I hate to say it, but I think maybe the latter is the answer. And it's upon each individual to improve. It's upon each individual to be of sound mind between ear and ear. K-State's wide receivers aren't bad. They're not playing well. But I still go back to, you brought up Malik and Sebastian. I think both of those guys in particular need to realize that they are very good wide receivers, but they can still get better, and they need to become a threat. They need to make opposing defenses concerned about them going into ball games. And right now, that's the issue with K-State's wide receiving core, is that they don't have anybody that scares, opposing defensive coordinators. They're solid, they're serviceable right now, but there's so much more that they can do. And for Kansas State, with the next 3 games, 2 of them on the road, those guys have to make some plays. They have to make some plays, because right now everybody is loading up to shut down Deuce Vaughn. That has opened up some avenues for Will Howard in the quarterback run game. But again, you hold your breath, because you don't want him to get, just plastered and knocked out of a ball game. But I think for Kansas State to continue to take some steps forward and give themselves chances to win here in these next 3 ball games, whether it's Brooks, Knowles, Taylor, Keenan Garber, whatever the case, those guys have to start making plays. You can't have your wide receiver group having like 5 catches, 6 catches in a ball game. That's just not acceptable. Particularly
with Briley Moore banged up, Sammy Wheeler gone for the year now, and defense is zoning in on Deuce Vaughn. You just need these guys to step up.
I'm glad you just said Sammy Wheeler. I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt there, but I'm glad you said Sammy Wheeler, because let's say Briley Moore doesn't go on Saturday. You're talking about a 3rd-string tight end, and K-State's really thin there. Connor Fox has a chance to be good. Nick Lenners has not seen a lot of passes his direction this year, but yet again, there's another position where K-State is, at the snap of a finger, really thin. And to me, that just means opposing defenses are going to gang up that much more to stop number 22, because they're not going to be scared of wide receiver, and they're not going to be scared by who K-State has at tight end.
It's incredible. This kid's a true freshman. And if you go back and watch what Oklahoma State did, they were watching every move Deuce Vaughn made. They had him boxed in, and really they put K-State in a position, and the announcers hit on this pretty hard, where they have to use Deuce as a decoy instead of a weapon. And it seemed to work a little bit against Oklahoma State, but boy, that's still achieving what Oklahoma State wants, or the opposing team wants, Deuce Vaughn not having the ball. That's what they want, and they kind of force you to do that just by the way they're defending, which brings it all more home. Maybe Malik Knowles and Sebastian Taylor need to be more involved around the line of scrimmage. Short passes, the jet sweep, anything to kind of get them in the rhythm. But then again, Malik's been beaten up, so you want to toss him the ball on a jet sweep and let him get banged up on a run around the line of scrimmage. It's kind of a Rubik's Cube, and I don't know which way to move the parts to try to get this offense working, but they're short on tools, period. They got two true freshmen that are leading the way, an offensive line that's improving, and, man, with Brownie Moore out, I can't tell you anything else to lean on. It's incredible.
I think to keep Knowles healthy, we didn't see him really in the return game against Oklahoma State, and I think that's the way it's got to be is, save him from kickoff return and just, put him out there a wide receiver. And maybe that's a way in certain instances you can get the confidence going again for Malik and for Sebastian is get them involved early in some short to intermediate routes, get them some catches. It's not very often that they're just blowing by guys and getting wide open deep down the field. So we'll see what Saturday's going to be like, but Iowa State's going to pin its ears back, and they are going to be coming full board K-State.
They certainly will. That's a 3 p.m. kickoff on Saturday up in Ames, Kansas State, Iowa State. It's Farmageddon. You can argue about the value of that name for a rivalry all day if you want, but I'm going to call it Farmageddon. I like this series, Matt. There's a little tension between the fan base, and that's always good. After the break, Matt and I will take a look around the Big 12, see what's going on, and around the nation, because college football is kind of entering the stretch run, which is weird because it seems like the Pac-12 just showed up to the party. That and more as PowerCat Insiders Podcast continues right after this.
The PowerCat Podcast will be right back.
Is your January looking dry? Get some lotion. Get a humidifier. And better yet, get Drizzly, the go-to app for drink delivery. With Drizzly, you can compare prices across local stores to get the best price on a huge selection of drinks perfect for dry January. Every single time. Non-alcoholic wines? Have a look. Ready-made mocktails? Grab a straw and order them up. Beer without the alcohol? Yep, take your pick. You can find all of them here, in the app. In that phone that's in your hand. Could it be any simpler? Nope, not a chance. So shop for great deals on all your dry January beverages or other drinks and get them delivered to your door or blanket fort, maybe. Download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com. Must be 21 plus, not available in all locations. And don't forget to lotion up your elbows. They're looking a little dry.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify is here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the US. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow, grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
We now send it back to the Power Cat Podcast.
Welcome back to the Insiders. There's only two of us today, Matt Walters and Tim Fitzgerald. Ryan Black is off doing Ryan Black things. Travis Tannehill, I think, is hunting. I know he said he was busy, but I bet he's out hunting or doing manly things like Travis Tannehill does. Not us. We're going to talk about K-State football. Matt, I'm fired up for Oklahoma State on Saturday night. I think that's a really, really good game this year. I think Oklahoma State's catching Oklahoma at its best, and Oklahoma State is pretty beaten up. So I'm intrigued to watch how this one plays out. But I was amazed to see the spread come out 10, 11 points in favor of Oklahoma. Just amazed. That's a lot of points for against a really good Oklahoma State team.
Yeah, Oklahoma's been rolling. They're trending the right direction. I think in Saturday's game between those two, Oklahoma State's running game to me is intriguing in this matchup because Chuba Hubbard didn't do much against K-State. He also got a little dinged up. He's the North and South guy, and there's part of me that thinks that LD Brown is going to be and needs to be a huge impact in that ball game on Saturday. But even though we're outside of the confines of that state, when you talk about Bedlam, it's always fun. You want to talk about rivalries there. I mean, there you go. That's one of the great ones in Mid-America, and it doesn't matter what the sport is.
It's amazing. Oklahoma State enters this game at 5-1. Of course, they've had one game displaced and moved to the end of the season with Baylor. That's the only Big 12 game, conference game at least, that has been moved so far this year. Oklahoma's 5-2 in the conference, but they started 0-2, so they have recovered nicely. And let's be honest here, Spencer Rattler has cleaned up a lot of his mistakes. He's beginning to show the signs of the great quarterback he was advertised to be, and I'm glad K-State caught him early because they caught him early and got to him in the fourth quarter of that game, got a victory, got out of town, and move on to other opponents. I think that was great fortune for K-State and Oklahoma State to catch the Sooners out of the gate.
Yeah, no doubt. And, I'll ask you, who do you like in that ball game? Do you like Oklahoma or do you like Oklahoma State?
I like Oklahoma to win. I like Oklahoma State to cover. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it'll be a good game, but I think Oklahoma's playing as well as anyone right now around the country there. I think they're kind of clicking, but then again, who have they played lately? They're picking up some wins, but they've already played K-State and Iowa State and lost. They played Texas and almost lost against a team that I don't think is that good. Maybe they're playing better now, but I'm not that overwhelmed by Texas, even though the media seems to always love them when they start winning. I think maybe Oklahoma's had some confidence-building wins as of late. They certainly beat up on Kansas, which I'm sure was an enjoyable day at the office, but they're going to get a much bigger test than they've had in a long time. Let's put it that way. They haven't really been pushed lately.
And Oklahoma State's defense is legit. They're athletic enough. Again, they're beat up in a couple of spots, but that's going to be quite a tug of war on Saturday. Again, to me, I think I think both quarterbacks will have some success, but to me, it's the ground game because both teams have the ability to do very good things rushing the football, and I think that's an area to keep a close eye on come Saturday.
It's going to be entertaining, and that's one thing I think some people are missing. That K-State's lost 2 in a row, but West Virginia and Oklahoma State have the two best defenses in this conference. And watching football from beginning to end so far this year in the Big 12, those are the two best defenses. And Iowa State, Oklahoma, Kansas State are all kind of hovering around there in the next tier, and maybe Texas. But really, if you follow the defenses, they're going to lead you to the top of the conference. And West Virginia has, as you mentioned, won their home games, but left some games on the table on the road. Tech, really disappointing. Texas, I think they kind of got screwed in that game a little bit, but they lost. But I think West Virginia's going to have something to say down the stretch too because of that defense.
I was surprised this past weekend how many of the talking or the national talking heads thought TCU was going to walk into Milan Puskar and get out of there with the win. I mean, they kept saying about TCU. And what are you talking about? Because West Virginia's defense will be able to shut down TCU, and they did. They suffocated Duggan and company. So West Virginia's defense is legit. And I tell you want to talk about transfer of the year. I think that's Tony Fields.
Yeah.
Because he makes approximately 30 tackles a game, it feels like.
He's everywhere. You can't escape him. What an incredible addition for that program. Oh, man, that kid can play. And it turned out Arizona went ahead and is trying to play football out there. But I think he's pretty happy he made the change.
I would think so. Because right now he's in the spotlight, without a doubt.
I'm just stunned at how much brand respect TCU gets. They get a lot of respect for Gary Patterson and the brand. And maybe this is a little bias from a guy that covers K-State, but I never felt Bill Snyder and K-State got that same kind of brand respect that TCU gets, even though the records through the years have been very, very comparable. I don't know.
Let me, I guess, turn that question back around. Did K-State get the brand respect, but it was years ago as compared to TCU getting it now? I mean, would you look at it that way, that, once Bill Snyder got K-State out of the doldrums, started winning games, got a conference title, was winning 9-10 games most years, did K-State get the brand respect then? And then it started to waver, and now that's maybe that's TCU?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. I think once 04 and 05 happened for Coach Snyder, he came back and the brand didn't get respect. He got more respect after the retirement. I was fascinated by that. People always poo-pooed what he did, like he cut corners, recruited JUCO guys. And then after he disappeared and came back, I think there was a lot of reevaluation of what he had done and how he started to do it again at K-State. So it switched from K-State to maybe him a little bit, but if you look back at the polls, preseason polls, TCU has consistently been picked above Kansas State. And I think over that Snyder 2.0 period, I haven't really looked at the numbers, but the two coaches were really comparable, very comparable in their results. I just found it very intriguing. I don't know. This is the PowerCat Insider Podcast brought to you by Blue Mark Energy. Blue Mark is a natural gas products and services provider serving feed yards, hospitals, hotels, manufacturers, and school districts throughout the Midwest. And Blue Mark Energy is a natural gas provider for the Kansas State campuses in Manhattan and Salina. Blue Mark Energy, K-State owned and K-State proud. The other game in the conference is Texas at Kansas. First of all, I was astonished to see a 29-point spread with Texas on the road. That is the opposite of brand respect. Now Kansas is absolutely getting hammered by the money in Vegas, I think. After setting, a 38-point line against Oklahoma, that wasn't even close to enough, and I knew it wasn't enough. Is this game going to be a 4-touchdown or more victory by Texas and Kansas? I just still find that hard to believe, even though KU's not very good.
Should be.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason Texas doesn't win that game by 40-plus points. If they are dialed in, enthused, and want to play, that game should be at least a 40-point ball game.
Incredible. And it's supposed to be a beautiful day in the Midwest here on a Saturday, at least in Kansas. They might be looking at mid-60s and the sun, and that's not what you want when Texas comes to town. You want 30 degrees. You want them unhappy about being there, that their peanut butter and jelly halftime sandwiches are too cold. I still blame Mac Brown for what's going on. I don't know. I'm entertained by the Big 12 this year, outside of Kansas, which is proving to be awful. I'm entertained. I watched much of that Baylor Tech game. I think there's some pretty good teams here. I think there's winnable games, but it doesn't quite feel the same. I feel like Tech and Baylor can beat you at any moment. They can hop up and get you. And that doesn't make it life very easy for Kansas State going to Iowa State, Baylor, and then coming home for Texas, does it?
Yeah, I agree. It's been as unique a year as any other. Like you, I watched the vast majority of Baylor and Texas Tech. I'm sure Baylor is still kicking itself today for letting that one get away. And then you got the storyline for Texas Tech, the Garibay kid who, does the kicking and does the punting and just has a lights out day, winds up winning the ball game for him. Texas Tech flipped back and forth much of the day between Columbia and Bowman. And I think in some respects, Bowman had kind of been written off, and look what he does. He helps bring Texas Tech back. So it's the conference race is not done. It's going to go down to the very end. And I just think the margin between number 1 and number 9 in the conference is that much thinner. KU's out on its own island because there's a huge disparity there. But you have to be careful. If you don't show up, whether you're at home, whether you're on the road this year, I think you can get beat. And it's not going to surprise me if we see a couple more of those before the end of the year. And again, Fitz, winning at home is different than winning on the road. But whether you're at home or whether you're on the road, the crowd factor is non-existent this year. You don't have the 80, 90, 100,000 helping create that energy and help bringing teams from behind. It's all from the sidelines right now.
And we learned over the weekend that the pride of Wildcat Land will not be at the K-State Texas game to conclude the season due to COVID concerns. That is one piece of that remained of the home field advantage. If you're Mike Gundy, it was too much of a piece of the home field advantage. It sounded like the K-State band might have been playing into the snap of the ball, which you're not supposed to do, but that sucks. I mean, there isn't much environment right now at a home football game. At least the pride was there, and now I don't know if we're going to have like Vanilla Ice playing before plays or what, or they'll pipe in band music. It's just going to be very strange on December 5th at Bill Snyder Family Stadium.
Yeah, that's correct. And remember, Oklahoma State also put yellow lines up on their video board as well. So
that was sketchy. Yeah, and it wasn't as well executed as you would think. The lines were too thick. You got to go out there and measure what it looks like for a kicker. It's been a crazy year, Matt. I'm just really happy that the Big 12 started and got after it and said, well, we're not going to put this off. We need this number of days to get ready for football and snap it. And mid-September they were playing, and here we are. 7 games in. If the rest of the schedule is wiped out, the Big 12 and its members have accomplished more this season than anyone thought. And that's been a really positive sign for the Big 12. A really nice, encouraging sign that the Big 12 is kind of turning the corner and might be really stable because the members all dove back into playing and said, maybe we'll get shut down, but we're going to go. And it's been the right decision. It's been a brilliant decision.
I thought before the season got started, I thought if K-State could play 8 games, that would be miraculous. Lord knows what's going to happen when we get to basketball, and that's not far away. Again, things aren't looking great at the moment around the country, but I think basketball is going to be an extremely difficult session the next few months. But, again, like you said, kudos to the Big 12 for doing everything imaginable and going way beyond the perceived boundaries before, all this hit to figure some things out and how to get it done. And to all the individual schools as well, kudos to them because, the fact that the Big 12 has gotten to this point, and it has been hit less, I think than the SEC and so forth is a positive. But let's see if somehow, some way, the Big 12 can finish strong this year and get virtually all the games in, if at all possible.
I'm very concerned about basketball, mostly because we're seeing teams schedule, for the most part, the Little Apple Classic, something different. But most teams are scheduling, as they always have, a lot of travel. They're going to bang around the entire conference during basketball. Man, I just don't think it's going to work this year. I think you're too many variables in there with COVID. You lose a couple guys to COVID, and you've lost a couple guys for 5-6 games, and that's going to be really difficult. How does K-State have a successful season? They stay healthy. They stay out of those predicaments. Don't get COVID. Be the healthy team and line up and consistently get better. I'm not saying they're going to be in the top half of the conference if they do that, but they may not be in 10th. And I think that's really important for this team, just to find success however you can define it this season, as young as they are. A bunch of freshmen and sophomores and a junior college transfer and one senior. I've never seen anything like it. It's incredible, and it'll be interesting to see how Bruce Weber and company handle this.
Yeah, interesting waters to navigate. I know I cringed when the Ivy League came out at the end of last week and said they're canceling all winter sports. So to me, it kind of knocked me back on my heels a little bit, thinking, we're just you got to go with the flow. You just have to don't try and predict anything. Just wait and see what happens, and it fits. It takes everybody, whether it's players, trainers, coaches. Whatever the case, it takes everybody being smart and responsible if the basketball season is going to get in. But the odds aren't very good.
An idea I saw early on for college basketball for the Big 12 was to do 3 bubbles. Spread out through the season. You play 18 conference games and do 3 bubbles of 6 games, maybe over a 2-week period or a Monday to 3 Mondays included, so it's 15 days. Go back to your campuses, have a couple weeks class, and go to another bubble. And maybe all the bubbles are in Kansas City because you got so many available facilities in downtown Kansas City with hotel rooms that are mostly empty. I wish the conference would look at that, Matt. I just saw that the NCAA has announced they are looking at moving the entire NCAA tournament to Indianapolis this season, where the Final Four was supposed to be, but they have a lot of places to play in Indianapolis, and the entire field of 68 would go to Indianapolis. I don't know how the town would handle that infrastructure-wise, but there won't be crowds probably, so it's not ideal, but I think that's just what you got to do right now is put teams in bubbles and try to get as many games. The NBA proved it can work.
Yeah, I think there's some validity to that. I don't know how far or if the Big 12 got down that road. I think Kansas City would be a good location for that. I guess Oklahoma City could be a good location for that. You're not talking about fans, so don't worry about Oklahoma City there. But again, when it came to football, the Big 12 did a lot of things to ensure games are at least having the opportunity to be played. And that's why I said we're going to have to be fluid during the basketball season. I know a lot of the radio crews, Fitzy, in the conference aren't traveling. They're going to be staying in their communities and calling home games and calling road games. So it's like wait 5 minutes and something's going to change. That's the MO I'm going by, because I just think that's the way it's going to be for the next few months.
I'm interested to get your thought on that. As a guy who was a writer first, I'm kind of used to covering games off TV. I mean, it can be done, and particularly now with Zoom post-game teleconferences, you don't really lose a lot. I mean, you miss out on being able to see some things, injuries, maybe some coaching decisions, substitutions, those type of things you kind of miss out on. But you can still cover the game. Radio and TV, doing it remotely, has got to be a real challenge. But TV, when it's ESPN or Fox, they're in a studio someplace with loaded equipment and whatever high-speed internet they need to be getting the games instantaneously. I think from city to city, calling a game on the radio off of TV would be really difficult. What are your thoughts?
And not something I've ever done, and I don't know that I'm looking forward to trying that. But it is what it is. I think you're right when it comes to Fox or ESPN or one of the biggies. It's not going to be and hasn't been that much of an issue. I hope it's not for the broadcast crews, men's or women's, around the Big 12. We'll see what transpires, but people are learning a lot of new traits and characteristics of how to handle getting games on the air this season.
It's crazy. Basketball tips next week. How's that? Little Apple Classic takes place starting in 9 days. Basketball is nearing. Hopefully they'll find a fourth team to come in and fill that slot. I wish they'd just play a full round robin of all 4, 3 games, playing everyone. Of all the teams to drop out South Dakota State, are you serious? We invite you to the party, and then you quit the party to go to your own party. It's not right, Matt. Not right.
I like the Jackrabbits program. I wanted to see them down here as well, but not this time.
Well, we can't have a story from Catfish. No rants this week. He is out of pocket. So is Travis Tannehill. So you just heard Matt Walters and Tim Fitzgerald, 2 old farts talking sports. That could be our show.
Have a great week, bud.
Thank you, brother. This has been the PowerCat Insiders Podcast, brought to you by GoPowerCat.com and Blue Mark Energy.
PowerCat Podcast. All rights reserved. GoPowerCat.com and Spirit Street Publishing.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.